Morning, everybody. As we go to the Chitas of today, we're holding on Tuesday. We're holding the third reading in Pash Kesisa, in the middle of the story of the golden calf. We're holding on chapter 33, verse number 12. Moshe said to God, you are telling me, Halas Amazah, take these people up to the land of Israel. And you have not yet told me whom you will send with me. And you said to me, you'll recognize my name. And also I have found pleasing favor in your eyes. Rashi says, Rashi says here means set your eyes and heart upon your words. You are telling me, but you have not told me whom you will send me with me. And that which you said to me, I'm going to send an angel before you, this is not adequate information for me, because I don't desire this. Rashi says, you said I'll make known my name, meaning I have distinguished you from the other nation, other people, by giving you a mark, a shame, a distinction. Doesn't mean a name, a physical name. It means a distinction. For you said to me, I am about to come to join you in the thickness of the cloud, and then they will believe in you forever. So they need something different. I need to have some kind of a different aspect. This whole thing needs to bring about a whole different reality. And therefore you find pleasing in your eyes. If I find myself pleasing in your eyes, please let me know your ways, so I can find favor within you. And consider it that this nation is your people. Rashi says, if indeed you regard me favorably, please let me know your ways, meaning the reward you give to those who regard favorably. But Rashi says means so that I may know this by this measure of your recompense, meaning what the favor with which you regard me entails. Thus, the interpretation of so that I find favor is in order that I may discover how to great reward is finding favor is. So I need to understand this. I need to be able to comprehend this concept, not for myself, but in the aspect of the Jewish nation. What does that mean? Rashi says, consider that this nation is your people, meaning so that you not say as before, I'll make you into a great nation and abandon these people. Consider that they are your people from the days of old. And if you reject them, I cannot be confident that my descendants will survive either. So therefore, we need to have a whole different reality. Rather, let me know the payment of your reward through this people. Now, my rabbis expound on this verse homiletically in the Tractate of Brachos, but I have come to explain the verse according to the simple, plain context and order. So if you want to go more deeper into the meaning of this whole back and forth between Moshe Rabbeinu and God, you should go into the Gemara. Verse 14, so God answered, my presence will go, and I will grant you rest. Now she says, this means my presence will go, I'll no longer send an angel with you, but I myself will go with you. We find the third panim you similar as panecha heichem bekerev, and you yourself go into battle. Panecha means myself. That's what it means. The word panecha, osin chassidus, means pnimius, the essence. Verse 15, Vayemei in a panecha heichem. He said to Moshe Rabbeinu, respond, if your face is not going to go, if your essence is not going to go with us, I'll tell him is that don't take me from here. Rashi says, and this is what the Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu answers, this is what actually I want. This is what I desire, for it's not through an angel, but do not take us off from me. If it's not going with, we're not going with your own divine presence, then I don't want to leave from here. The people are not leaving from here. Verse number 17, 16, but Moshe Rabbeinu is not happy totally. How else can it be known that your people and I have found favor in your eyes? Is in one way, and money is when you're going to go with us. But more than that, and let your people and me be distinct from every nation on the face of the earth. Now she says, how else can it be known? How will it be known, the meaning being regarded favorably? Is it not by you going with us? And in addition to that, I am asking a further request of you, that you have no longer manifest your presence among the nations of the world. It's a powerful desire of Moshe Rabbeinu. She says, what is the meaning of this concept? The meaning is, this is in this respect, we will have set apart from every other nation. V'neflinu is used in the same sense as God will differentiate the hifla between the lifestyle, just like God separated between the livestocks of the nations of the Mitzrayim and between the Jewish people. God will show this aspect of differentiation between the Jewish nation and the rest of the world. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu asked, and we'll see what the Eibishter responds. But this ends the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya of the day. I always miss to learn with you guys the highlight of Tanya, chapter 32, Lamed Beis of Tanya. But we are holding the chapter 33 of Tanya. Lamed Beis, the 32nd chapter, is the Lev of Tanya, the heart of the Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe now continues chapter 33. The Alter Rebbe told chapter 32 was about Avas Yisrael and the connection between one Jew and another Jew, how all the essence, the same concept, we're all united as one. Alter Rebbe now goes into chapter 33. Chapter 31, the Alter Rebbe discussed various means of arousing joy to counteract the sadness brought on the contemplation of one's spiritual failings. In chapter 33, the Alter Rebbe resumed this discussion. And another means of leading one's soul to true joy. True joy, amiti, true joy. Especially in those specific times when one finds it. One finds it subtle zachacha. When one tries to purify to purify his soul and illuminate it with the gladness of his heart. It needs to have illumination. We need to have happiness. We need to have these kinds. We need to awaken up in our hearts joy of godliness, joy of being a Jew, joy of serving God. A person, let him think deeply. A person to think deeply. And he should picture in his mind, in his understanding, he should put it into his mind. He should imagine the concept of the unity of God, Amiti, the true unity of God. What's the true unity of God? True unity means not only that there is one God, that everybody believes that there's one God, one creator, but furthermore, God is the only existing being. That means the Eibishter is existence. And there's no existence, as the Rambam writes, there's no existence without God's existence. So then what does that mean? That my existence is because God exists. Right now, as I exist because God exists. And that's the concept of Echad. unity, oneness. Nothing truly exists outside him. So real true existence is God's existence. And everything is God's existence. And nothing to, and we'll explain further. Our God, let him consider. Person should meditate. And our God permeates all worlds. God, Mamali Kolalman. Very important word in the Chassidus. Mamali Kolalman. God fills the world. The upper worlds and the lower worlds. Just as a soul pervades the body, thereby animating it, so does God permeate all worlds. This indwelling refers to divine life force, which adapts itself to each individual creation capacity to receive it, whether it's a rock or a human being. And for this reason, the Alter Rebbe distinguishes here between the upper worlds and the lower world. In the upper, more spiritual world, the revelation of his life was more greater, because it's more spiritual, since the capacity is greater. So it's all about how much capacity your world has to receive the light of God. In the upper worlds, the spiritual world, there's a greater capacity. In a rock, there's a less of a capacity. And even though, let him further consider. So that's number one. Number one is you go from the easy to the hard. Number one is you have to believe and meditate and realize how God gives life to everything in this world. Everything in this world needs to have God's energy, existence, that the Eibishter gives it a life. Everything has a life. I mean, in a vegetation, you can see more of the life. In animals, you can see more of the life. In a human being, we can see more life. But there's a life. There's a life force in everything in this world. So let him consider how this world is filled with his glory. Right? This refers to the lion, but this refers to the divine life, which encompasses. So even let him further consider how even this world is filled with his glory. It's also the Eibishter is above the world. It's an encompassing light, which is, he doesn't say the word over here. In Chassidus, it's called Soivev Kalam. I'm sure you heard that expression. Soivev Kalam, that God encompasses the world, all the world in which he animates them as if from above. That's Soivev Kalam means it's like it's from above. Because as Alter Rebbe taught in Chassidus, that the Eibishter Soivev Kalam is in the world, but it's seemingly above because we don't see it. We don't see this force. So it's like something that's above it without adapting itself to particular nature for each created being, so that even the physical world is filled with his glory. It's a concept, Kvod Hashem, the glory of God, which fills the world, Soivev Kalam, an encompassing light. And now, at the same time, as God fills the world, we can see that, we can feel the energy. As God is above the world, it's an encompassed light. We don't feel that energy. We understand it comes from there is an energy that we cannot be able to see. And now everything has no reality whatsoever to his presence. How everything is totally nothing to God. Garnished. Not that God's greater, not that God's more powerful. Pashit, nothing exists in the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Nothing really exists. And he is alone. Really an entity, the Eibishter is here alone. Whether it's in the upper world or the lower world. That's what it's the Eibishter God is the same. Nothing has changed. The Eibishter God is unique and one. He's alone. Unique means he's alone. There's nothing but God. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Ein oid milvadoi. There's nothing but God in this world. Nothing. Why is there nothing? There's a world. But since everything is nothing to him, then there's nothing. then this is really to God a nothing. And you have to imagine, again, you have to think in your brains. Once he's alone, the upper and lower, just as he's alone prior to 6 days of creation, when nothing was existed apart from God, so too now, when all the worlds have been coming into being, he's still one and alone, since all of creation is naught before him, as explains further. So even in this very place, where in this world, Hashamayim v'aretz, whether it's the heavens, whether it's the earth, v'chol tzavam, and all the hosts of the heavens, all the malachim, and all the angels, and all the souls, and also in this world, everything in this world, hayahu levadei memale hamakom hazeh. The Eibishter, before creation, filled this whole place. It was only God. All that was created, he alone then filled the space. The Gam Ata came. And so too it's true right now. Hu levade. Eibishter, God is alone. Belishum shin. What means God is alone? It means that there's no change in God. Belishum shinui kla, without any change. Humanity, creation didn't change God. Why is creation? What do you mean? There's a creation. There's those who go against God. That's for shalom. What do you mean that humanity didn't change God? The reason is because they're nothing to God. They're a finite entity, and God's an infinite entity. How can a finite entity have any influence on an infinite entity? Nothing. For in relation to him, the very existence of all created being is utterly nullified. Talim etzuvatir mamish. And never. So why is this bringing me to Simcha? You'll soon see in a moment. But the point is, the first thing I need to imagine that I'm nothing. I'm truly nothing. Not figuratively, in reality, right now. So it is from his perspective, as it were, everything remains just as prior to creation. The Alter Rebbe now introduces an analogy which traces to the early evolution of an idea or desire from the moment it occurs in one heart, mind and heart. So when a person has a desire, it's right now in his ratzain. At that stage, the idea or desire is formless, not having any shape or form of words. It's pure desire. It's a pure idea. The desire of an English-speaking person, for example, feels no different than that of a Hebrew-speaking person. We both have a desire. When it's above language. That's why we search for the desire of man. What is the true desire in a human being? The second you put it in words, you have now defined it, and by that you're diminishing the desire. It is only when it reaches a stage that of applied or practical thought that the idea or desire takes on a form, which is called letter of thought, which may later be expressed in speech. That's why it's very hard for us sometimes to express our desires in speech. And the truth is, that's why somebody else doesn't know our true desires, because it's hard for us to express in speech. It's so pure and so refined, maybe, that it's impossible to express them, because you automatically express in speech, diminishing that true, pure desire. Now, the letters of thought and speech are, of course, seminal, contained in the original idea or the desire. It is only that at that point, their existence is completely nullified, as though these letters were non-existent. Only the idea or the desire is felt. Stated in terms of the Alter Rebbe employs, the idea and desire are described as part of the 10 soul powers, which are the 3 Chabad belonging to the intellect, and the 7 Midas comprised of one's emotional range. The 10 faculties are the source and the root of thought and speech. For one thinks and speaks that which he understands or feels. These faculties are called the substance and the essence of the soul. In comparison to thought and speech, now it's in comparison to the essence of the soul, even that is an outer expression. But in comparison to thought and speech, what are we comprised of? Not thought and speech. We're comprised of these characteristics. 3 intellectual characteristics and 7 emotional characteristics. So in comparison, there are really soul garments in the modes of external expression is thought and speech and ultimately action. To relate the analogy to the point under discussion, every created being derives its existence and life from divine speech, meaning from the letters that God commanded that created. Since nothing is outside God, their creative speech and the beings created thereby are contained within God in the same way as the word one speaks were previously contained within the desire of the heart. All of creation is therefore nullified before God, just as letters, speech, are nullified within the idea and the desire, which is their source, where only the desire is felt, not the letters. So that's the analogy the Alter Rebbe is going to give. Like all created beings are nullified before God, just as the letters of speech and thought are nullified within their source and root. What's the source and root of a speech and thought? Humohus anefesh vatzmusa is the soul substance. What is the true soul substance and essence of the soul? Is we explained that in Tanya. Shein esa b'chinisa. The root of the soul, the real substance of the soul is esa spheres. The substance of a soul is 10 manifestations of godliness, which is Chachma, Bina, and Das, and then you have the 7 Midas, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, that is the soul. Now there is Yechidah Shebenefesh, and that's the part of the godliness that's even higher than the Esses Finis of Neshama. Really, see this, that is connected to the passion of Flinu Aniva Amcha. That's what Alter Rebbe says, you're a chelik elakam imal mamash. That's where Moshe Rabbeinu says in the Finu, there has to be a separation. There got to be a separation between a Yid and the rest of the world. And that is your chelik elakam imal mamash. That's even higher than the midas of the Esses Finis. It's the quintessential connection of an neshama, of a soul, to the essence of God. But let's go to the second level of the soul, which is the Esses Spheres, 10 manifestation of godliness. Then the Esses Spheres has levushim, has garments to these Esses Spheres, which is Machshava, Dibur, Ma'aseh. We learned this in the beginning of Tanya. Thought, speech, and action. They are the garments of the neshama. So speech is in a garment in comparison to the Sphira. In the Sphiras, in the makeup of the soul, the DNA of the soul, which is the Esses Sphiras, over there, there's no words. Chesed is pure. Gevura is pure. There's no words. I can't even explain what my chesed is. Really, ultimately, you cannot explain what your chesed is. When you try to explain your chesed, you're diminishing what your true chesed is. And that's why a person could always do more chesed. Because even though he's saying that he only can do this, but that's not true. Because your midah is much deeper than what you think your midah is, machshava, or even what you say your midah is, what you say your capacity is, which has no letters, yet, prior to them being clothed in garments. It has to now take your chesed, and now I garment my chesed in thought. The levush machshava, in the garment of machshava, which I explained this at length in chapter 20 and 21, and see there, go back to chapter 20 and 21. Ukemotion is by gam kain b'makam as I also explained this idea, an analogy, mashal gashmi lezeh, to a physical phenomena, me'inyam bitel ziva el Hashem mekayda. For example, the analogy of the sun, the ray of the sun in the sun. That the ray of the sun, which comes from the sun, but the ray of the sun in the sun, there's no comparison between the sun and its ray. In the sun, the ray is totally nullified. Out of the sun, wow, the ray is what we live with. Baruch Hashem, we live with the ray of the sun. Thank God that the sun is not too close, so we only live with its ray. And because the sun is extremely far from us, that's why the ray gives us pleasure, warmth, and existence, and lives life to the world. But the ray of the sun in the sun has no space. There has no place. There's nothing. It's totally nullified, that ray of the sun within the sun. Guf Kadar Hashem, which is the celestial orb of the sun. So everything, the ray of the sun, you cannot say the ray of the sun is the sun, even though it comes from the sun. And without the sun, the ray wouldn't be there. But the ray within the sun is totally nullified. It has no existence. It's like nothing, because the ray to the sun is but totally nullified. For surely its radiance and light glow and spreads forth there too in the sun itself. More strongly, in fact, than they spread forth and glow in the space of the universe. But it's over there, there's no ray. You don't say over there there's a ray. Oh, there's the light of the sun. There's the sun. The sun is more powerful than any kind of ray that's in it. And therefore, any ray of the sun, which gives unbelievable light to the world, is totally nullified within the sun. It's like not there. You wouldn't say there's a ray in the sun, even though there is a ray in the sun. Because if there was no ray in the sun, there wouldn't come here this ray. So there is a concept of where the sun illuminates and shines to the world. But that concept of shining to the world is nothing in the sun. It's like non-existent in the sun itself. All that is within the sun itself is the sun itself, which is merely a product, an offshoot of the sun. This will be later. This will be better understood in terms of saying, of what good is a candle in daylight? Naturally, the candle is no less luminous by day than by night. But because the light is overwhelmed by the far greater brightness of the daylight, it no longer fulfills its function of illumination. At this point, it ceases to exist as a luminary because there's light. Oh, but it's shining. But what's its value? We have the light that's shining in the room, whether it's from the light or from the ray of the sun, is bigger than the light that can give it nothing. It's non-existence. The same is true to the sun ray as it is in the sun. So take that analogy and bring it to the analogy of God in the world. Exactly so. Figuratively, derech mashal. Again, it's a derech mashal because it's not even a good because it's not even an analogy really, because there is a ray in the sun. So it's for us, it's like non-existence. It's the mamish non-existence. Not that it's nullified, it's non-existence. Zuil is non-existence to God. That's why it's figuratively speaking. Its very existence of this world and everything is nullified in relation to its source. What is the source of this world? Which is the infinite light of God. As you can all look in chapter 20 and 21 at length. This is then the true meaning of God's unity. What's the true meaning of God's unity? That He only exists. And there's truly nothing besides Him. And then the Abish says, I want you. And then God asked me to do something. I'm nothing. And then this nothing, God is asking me to do this mitzvah. How happy should I get that I'm nothing in comparison to God? God is waiting for me to put on film. If one contemplates this deeply and at length, Yismach Libay, at length in this matter, God's unity, his heart will rejoice. V'sogel nashe, and his soul will be gladdened. V'rina b'cholev, and he will dance at the point of rejoicing and singing with his whole heart. Be'emunozu, in this belief, ki rabohi, ki he kirvas alakim mamish, for his faith is tremendous, that it fills one's mind. It will actually constitute an experience of the closeness of God. That the Eibishter is asking him, as the Alter Rebbe said to him, to make a dir in this world. God is asking him to be a shutef. God is telling you that a yid can be a partner in this whole concept. In fact, it's the whole purpose of man, and the purpose in which he and all the worlds, the upper and the lower, were created. That God should have a dwelling place in this world. As I explained further, how this earthly abode for God is the purpose of the whole creation. Man's faith in the unity of God fulfills his goal. For when God's unity is revealed in his mind and his heart of men, that's the mitzvah of Emunas Hashem, this world becomes an abode for God. My brain, that's this world. I'm an Olam Katan. I'm a small world. When I can create Emunas Hashem in my mind, a true belief in God, how God is everything, then I become everything. And I fulfill my purpose, which is everything. He is revealed there just as he revealed himself completely in his own home. Then I create an abode for God in my mind, in my existence. Now, therefore, how great is the joy of a common, lowly person like me. Biskarvus lamelech, that I become close to the king. Melech, boss of Adam. I become close to a king. I become, like, for example, I become close to a king of flesh and blood. That I was invited to live, and to live, or I bring God in to live with me. So I have the chance. Imagine if I have a chance to host a great personality, the king of the land. He wants to come and live in my house. It would create an unbelievable joy in my life that somebody of such great stature, and me that in comparison to him is nothing. Nevertheless, he wants a relationship with me. He actually wants to live with me in my house. How much more, infinitely more, or to be one to rejoice in the nearness of the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be, and his dwelling together in man in this physical world. man's home, that I can make for God a home. For who is man who dares to approach me, says God? Yet one's awareness of God's unity and through self-nullification before him, one does come near to God. Furthermore, thereby God dwells within him, with him and within him. What a beautiful Tanya for today. If we just think about it and try to imagine. Today is the 11th day of the month, which is chapter 60 to chapter 65 in Tillim. If you say those 6 chapters, you'd say the chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes today in the Yom Yom, the following is well known and is a tradition regarding kavanas, mystical intentions in prayer. That for those intellectually incapable of meditating on these kavanas, on these mystical intentions, either because they lack knowledge or because they cannot remember the specific kavanas during the prayers, so the Rebbe says it's sufficient that they keep one general kavanah. And this fits well with the Tanya of the day. And that is that he's praying that his prayers be heard by God. Praying to God. That's the greatest kavanah that anybody can have. Everybody, when they daven, they should imagine they're davening to God. That is the kavanah. With all the kavanas described with, and you should imagine that he's praying to God with the kavanas that he doesn't even know, but with all the kavanas, with all the intentions that a person's supposed to have when he davens, he doesn't have that capability, but he has a simple, he davens like a pashta yid, like a simple Jew. I'm davening to God. God will work out all the kavanas that I'm supposed to have, which I don't have the capacity intellectually, but I have this capacity that when I daven to you, I daven to the Eibush. There is the Pesach, there is the other Sheni. Today we do two Hayom Yoms. We get 2 for the price of 1. The Rebbe writes for Pesach Sheni that year that the Rebbe wrote this Hayom Yom. There were 2 others. So that's why there's 2 Yom Yoms every day. He writes, Chassidus contains 2 fundamental principles. Number 1, understanding every halacha, Torah law, on a spiritual plane, in its root and ultimate source, namely in the spheres and the planes of every world, according to that world character, as explained in Chassidus. So you have take every halacha, and you look it through the world of Atzilus, you look it through the world of Bria, Yitzira. There's a way of looking every mitzvah. And number 2 is comprehending the subject of every halacha and avodah, service. Meaning, although the halacha is an expression of godly wisdom and intelligence, and its law, and it is a law in the Torah, nevertheless, one must discover in it an avodah concept. What does that mean? Avodah service. Concept to guide one's conduct in his life here in this world. So you need to take the halacha. That's why you can take every halacha in Torah, whether it pertains to now or doesn't pertain to this present time, like the Mishkan, the building of the Mishkan. But we're going through next. We're going to go through this next week and the following week. 4 parshas are given away to the building of the Mishkan, which we don't have a Mishkan today. And as we come to Vayikra, we come to the laws of sacrifice. We don't have a Beis Hamikdash to bring sacrifice, and we go through the detail of every halacha of that mitzvah. Why do we do that for? Because self-understood, we're trying to also, not first of all, because they're all godly wisdom. And they're godly wisdom in all levels, many different levels, the way godly wisdom is expressed in every world. But number two is, what do I learn from it? What do I do with it now? What do I do with this learning today? You should, in essence, a person, whenever he learns Torah, the Rebbe, when he bring after the Sikha, we say, what do we do with this whole knowledge? So it's a beautiful concept, and we explained a beautiful thing for the last hour, and it's beautiful, but what do you do with it? The only thing is the action. So what do we do with this whole hour of great knowledge and great philosophy? What do we do with it today? So you have to know whenever you learn, how it needs to influence your day. How through this learning is it going to change my day? Because if not, so it stays in the realm of thought. No, as we learn in Chassidus, you have three garments: machshava, dibur, ma'aser. Thought, speech, and action. How is it going to influence my action today? How am I going to change my ways in life because of this halacha that I learned today? How is it brought down to avodah? Avodah Adam. How is it brought down into the level of avodah? Level of avodah, service, dedication, commitment. However we want to express the word avodah. Wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. Shem, we'll see you all tomorrow. We'll continue the chitas at 8 a.m. And Be'ezat Hashem, you're all welcome to come tonight as we go through this decoding the Talmud. It's a fascinating class. We're only our fifth class. I invite you all at 7 o'clock. Come to Chabad. Learn something fascinating. Have a weird until then, until tomorrow. See you all 8 a.m. Have a wonderful day.